Real Rap with Reynolds, take 1. Real Rap with Reynolds, take 2. There it is. This is the new Samsung 85-inch interactive display. In a world where student engagement, kind of sounds like one of those movies.
In a world where student engagement.
But honestly, in a world where student engagement is so difficult right now, whether you are in person, you're doing hybrid, you're doing virtual learning, finding tools that are gonna help you maximize your class time, engage your students, and make learning meaningful is what everyone is looking for. I recently partnered with Samsung to introduce their new 85-inch interactive display. And this thing is awesome. And so instead of just telling you about it, I want to show you how I'm using this in my classroom and how I plan on using it throughout the rest of the year. Like a lot of you, right now in my classroom, I'm teaching to a lot of foreheads and ceiling fans. And so trying to get kids to pay attention to what we're doing is really important. And one of the ways to do that is to create experiences for students to engage with. Now, this also has a ton of ways that I can use this in my classroom once we go back. So let's get into both of those. Clearly my children have been enjoying this too. So when you get it out of the box, what it looks like is like the whiteboard gives you a lot of different capabilities. It comes with these little pens, which are really just wooden dowels. So if you even get these, you only get 2 of them, but if a kid walks off with them, if you lose them, you can just substitute it with a chopstick. And it has 2 uses. One end is a pen and the other end is a highlighter. They can change into all different colors too by just taking the end, pushing it on there. It brings up all of your different color choices, so you can change it to whatever color you want. So one of the things I've been doing is using this to help my students break down pieces of writing and do some close reading activities like this. So for some of my classes, if we're doing something like breaking down the Merchant of Venice, one of the things I like my students to do is to identify words that they might have difficulty with. So whether I'm online or in school, I can project this on here, take my highlighter, and have the students work with me to identify words that they don't understand. Some of the many of those are words like doth, plea, mitigate, and then be able to label things, like to put an arrow on here and write on it is really, really fascinating. And the excitement that I have around like going back to school and the kids can write on this themselves, that they could stand up at the board and write on this and maybe even have smaller versions of this. I can break it down and I can have multiples of these up here. Now, with some of my students, I could have 3 to 4 students up here. But even if this was being used as a station, I could have 1 or 2 kids at a time working on something like this. Another thing I really like it for is working with Google Slides. So I have 2 choices here. One, I could go right on the internet, click the internet on there, or I can wirelessly connect this to my laptop. And then once it's connected to my PC, check this out. So if I have a student's project, one of the projects that we work on every year is to create Pokemon cards out of Greek gods and goddesses. So a student gives me their project and I want to tell them to move something over, to drop something down, to shift a project part. What I do is put what's essentially a saran wrap over this. Now I can give the student notes on here that they can take home or take back to their desk to know exactly what I'm talking about. So if I want to tell a student that your picture needs to be this exact size, if I want to tell them to not forget the location and the physical description of the character, I can do so right on the board. I can tell them to make sure that they remember to note what element their particular character is. Is it the god of the sea? Is it the god of the underworld? Is it the god of wind? And then I can save this and give it to the student. If I want to get to someone else's project, I can use the PC as the keyboard for this, or I can just adjust it on here because this is all touch now as well. And if you make a whole mess all over this thing, or somebody bumps into it, or someone's drawing on it and you're not looking, all you do is take your hand and it wipes right off. And since this connects wirelessly to your phone or to your PC, you can actually use your PC as the keyboard for the screen. So while you're working on stuff or students are working on stuff, they can work on the computer and see it right up there, or you could be typing on the computer and showing students how to do it up there as well. And if I want to access any of that stuff, I just bring up all the roll browsers. All the different projects that we've worked on all show up and I can hit any of them at any time. When we study symbolism every year, one of the ways we do that is through graffiti art. And one of our favorite places to visit when we're in school is FDR Park in Philadelphia. But one of the cool things I can do with this, since we can't go to FDR right now, is identify and talk to students about what we would see there if we were there. I can talk about different types of graffiti. I can point out the shading in someone's art. I can point out different artists that we would see when we're there. And then we break this down and talk about, what does symbolism mean? Why would someone pick a certain word to say who they are, what they were about? Why would someone choose a certain image, and what is that image trying to say to us? And one of my favorite things that students can do on this is create their own artwork. So students can create their own artwork, or in our case, their own graffiti art on the board. There's a paint function in the board that allows you to draw with your pen. You can draw with your hand, or my favorite piece is you can use an actual paintbrush to do this. So when you're doing this, you just take any paintbrush and you paint it on here, and the kids can create art. Now, one of the cool things is that when I have artists often come into our classroom as guests, the idea is that they'll be able to create artwork on here in real time while talking to the students. For those of us in the classroom right now, the hardest thing is trying to find ways to get students engaged, to diversify their learning experience, and to just try and make learning fun and meaningful. I'm excited to have a tool at my disposal that will help me meet all of those needs. If you have any questions for me, or if you're interested in finding out more information, you can click the link down in the description below. And that's it for now, everybody. Peace.